Madlab Performance presents The Lab Podcast. Here's your host and chief mad scientist, Dan Gilbert.
Hello and welcome everybody to The Lab. I'm joined in studio by the maniac honest Luke Hillman.
Always.
And we're here to talk to you about overtraining. And when we're talking about overtraining, we're talking about that effect that occurs when a person exceeds their body's ability to recover due to how much exercise that they're doing. And we see some negative effects both mentally and physiologically is the word that I believe that I'm looking for. Luke, your thoughts, feelings, ideas about overtraining.
Overtraining, I think me and you both have experienced overtraining.
Oh, yes, yeah.
We've had
multiple different times in my lifetime.
We probably worked with a ton of clients who've either experienced it in the past or have even pushed themselves too hard at some point.
Yeah, and then you get sometimes you just get some slowdowns in performance. Sometimes some fatigue, maybe some trouble sleeping. There's a million different signs, but sometimes it can lead to a serious injury.
Yeah, and so that's what we're going to go through on this episode here. Also go through how to identify it, how to address it, and some certain fads that kind of feed into it as well, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think you've set up a great little podcast for us, Luke.
That's what I do.
There we go. All right, so some signs. Let's go through some of the signs. And this is difficult. So overtraining, it just seems to me it's both simplistic and very complicated. And it can get really complicated because how many signs are reported for overtraining, right? I mean, at one point there was documented, I think it was like over 120 different signs of overtraining. And
you were talking about that. And
that makes it very difficult to figure out if you are overtraining. Plus, a lot of the signs can be, they're difficult to be like, all right, this is from me training so much versus, oh, maybe this is from stress, or this is from like a sleep last night, or this is because I'm getting sick, or this is because I'm hungry. Like there's a million different things, right?
Yeah.
What are some signs, like some things that you really look out for that you think are some of the telltale signs?
I can go from what I've seen and then also personal experience. I think the big thing is it tanks your immune system.
Yeah.
So you find people getting sick all the time. I know a lot of these people that I see getting sick all the time, and I know it's definitely overtraining has to play into it. Definitely sleep is messed up. You don't get proper REM cycle. It's probably choppy, not as productive. Blood pressure can be. You can have mood swings. I mean, it can really affect a ton of things.
Changes in heart rate.
Changes in heart rate, digestive issues. I mean, it can really just affect you all across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people have these symptoms and have no clue that that's the case.
Yeah.
In fact, sometimes you have these symptoms.
I didn't know this happened to me.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Like, I literally just thought you're just being a wimp if you didn't push through it.
I tore 2 ACLs specifically because of that.
Yeah.
Actually. I was overtraining. My first ACL, I tore playing basketball. I was on a fast break. I did a move that I've done a million times before, and my knee just kind of blew out. And at the time, I was playing basketball 4 nights a week. I was playing football 2 nights a week. And then I was lifting, but I was powerlifting, like all pretty much 5x5 strength sets, 6 days a week.
How many times were you sleeping?
That is a good question. That I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure it was
low.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then think about it. So
I was in my wild 20s, Luke. So yeah.
So you don't even take days off, and you weren't even getting adequate sleep.
Yeah, and I would train no matter what. Like, no matter how I felt the next day or anything, and it'd be the same training. There'd be no like difference.
Yeah, I've done that. Where you're like sore as hell, and you still go in there, and you think it's just because you're being weak or whatever it is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like,
you go in there and you
completing
do
the workout regardless.
And so,
same weights, doesn't matter. You're tired, same percentage increases.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. There's no modification.
Right.
Nothing.
What happened to you? So mine specifically, the 2 big ones for me were both ACLs.
Yeah.
The first one especially because I was really just overdoing it.
Yeah.
for that one. What's your story over there, Luke? I think I know this actually.
Well, yeah, you do.
Okay.
Mine just hit me in the form of obviously that fatigue was just ridiculous. At the time, I was probably sleeping like 5 hours a night, but still doing something pretty much every day. And then got stuck in that, and then definitely the biggest side effects I felt was digestive issues was definitely off, and then on top of that, like really irritated by a lot of things very easily.
I thought that was just your natural personality.
No.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes. Overtraining, that's what it is.
You got an excuse now. That's perfect.
Anxiety, depressed mood, stuff like that was a big indicator for me, and it definitely just made those issues worse. So,
and when we're saying this, we're not saying when you have any of these symptoms, you should definitely point to overtraining.
No.
But it is something that you should look at, right?
You're wearing yourself down.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You're really wearing, and even a lot of us use exercise as a stress reliever, but what's not really talked about as much is you are in a nonstop stress environment while you're working out.
Right, and it's one of the things that the stress causes adaptation and change, usually for the positive. Yeah. But when the volume and frequency starts to get ridiculous, and there's no proper rest periods, and the rest periods aren't smartly designed and developed, then it can cause a lot of problems, a lot of negatives, right?
Yeah, absolutely,
for sure. So again, I'm not saying, and neither is Luke. We're not saying that if you have these symptoms, that you should go, oh, it's definitely overtraining. No, I need to switch that. There's a million things. So these are symptoms for a lot of different things in life. Yeah. However, I feel like one of the things you should look at is your training program, right? Yeah. Okay, I'm anxious. I'm irritable. I'm not sleeping well. I'm starting to get sick pretty often. My performance is lowering. How often I've been working out? I've been hitting it hard 5 days a week for the last 40 weeks.
Yeah,
right?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, then you can be like, well, there could be some other factors in there for sure, but 40 weeks of 5 days a week.
Even the pros don't do that.
Right, yeah. So I would say definitely cause for worry. What would you say about that, Luke?
Yeah, you summarized it perfectly on that.
I just was looking for a compliment, really. Okay. So thank you.
Well, you got
thank
it.
you. I appreciate it. That's fishing for it right there. So I think that it's important to take a look at these things. That's why you need a smart training program, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So just getting the right exercises is one part of programming, and then figuring out how much volume you should do so that you can get positive, whatever your goal is, like whether you have an athletic goal or you have a change of body goal or something like that. Those are important to fit in with what the amount of volume and the things that you should be doing. However, you should also figure out, based on your intensity and then your amount of volume and how frequent you are, you should figure out when you're going to either take some time off or you're going to go into deloading. And
that's the thing too, like when you brought up with programming, that it's not just exercise variations, it's recovery time. It's that rest time you're talking about. All that stuff is factored into a program.
I think that's not something that I really think is important. I think that is part of your program.
No, right? I agree. That's what I was trying to.
Yeah, no, I like that. Yeah. I like including that as part. I don't like
because that's how you get optimal results. Yeah. You need all those things.
Exactly.
You can work out as hard as you want, but if you're not recovering, you're not growing.
That's why when you train athletes, you're looking at, all right, what's our off-season program look at like versus in-season versus directly after a tough season, especially in contact sports or sports where they're just playing them, which is a lot of games.
And I've actually listened to a couple and read a couple just trainers in basketball and in the NFL, NBA, and a lot of them say when they work with clients and stuff, one of the first questions they ask, how much sleep you get in a night.
I think sleep plays into almost anything in life.
100%.
And that's one of the first things you should look at too. So people ask me when I start talking to them about, especially like new trainers, when we start talking about deloading, which we'll go over in a minute, but they start talking about deloading or taking time off, when that should happen. And I think that there's some definitive information that you need first, right? So then you kind of want to know what your client's doing. You want to know how much volume you're giving them, but then also what they're doing, whether it's their sport or their work or their everyday life. You need to know all of those things.
And I think this is why making your clients body aware is extremely important, because at the end of the day, they are the best indicator for what's going on in their lives.
Absolutely.
For that. So the more they know their body, the more they can give you proper feedback.
So one of the things that I like is that we use. I think that everybody should do this with their training anyway. So I feel like people should be answering these questions before they work out, even if you're just training yourself. But our clients, we use, shout out to Train Heroic. So we use a database where they obviously can see their sets and reps and whatever the exercise is for a day, and it shows videos, and it's an amazing database for that reason, for programming, but also it makes them answer questions beforehand, like how stressed are you, how much sleep are you getting, what's your mood. And when you see a lot of you take a look at it overall, and you take a look at somebody's week or month of training, and you see a lot of those numbers are really low, that's when it's caused as a trainer to start to worry. So getting that feedback from your clients is extremely important. Also, again, if you're doing just training yourself, you're working out in the gym, getting that feedback from yourself is important, right? And then you can look at it, and if you're doing it out of 10, you see 3s across the board for like 2 weeks, you're like, oh man, I might have an issue. And then look back and be like, actually, I haven't had days off in training for a long time, or even really set up a deload week or anything, right?
Yeah.
How often, what do you do to prevent overtraining for yourself and then also for your clients?
So how I do it for me and how I do it for my clients is a little different. I know myself pretty well, I think, at this point, body-wise. But obviously my goals are a little different than those of my clients.
For sure.
For me, like, I like to experiment a little bit with volume. Like right now, as you know, I like doing a ton of volume.
Yeah.
But I can pretty much...
Body by Luke.
But I know when I still... For me, how I can go into overtraining is that I just love being in the gym. So naturally, I just keep doing more and more. It's just... And then I kind of overtrain it that way. But for me, I have to be very conscientious, and I am conscientious of, one, I can just feel my body. I can just tell by how a past workout went. Like, a workout when you're tired and you're okay to push through it, but you also know when you're just not performing right. Like when even just getting into like a certain stance or just even setting up on a hinge feels tiring, you got a problem.
My biggest one, from an exercise standpoint, I can tell I'm starting to get overtrained when I go to do it. Well, also if I'm starting to get some pounds on me, as well. But when I go to do pull-ups and they're rough, like it almost feels like I just feel
burns.
like and I just feel that joint tiredness. I'm like, oh man. And then I take a look at things that way. I do try to schedule in a deload week or a week off every 8 to 12 weeks for me. And I think that's pretty safe protocol for anybody.
I should do that. I don't do that, but I should do that. 100%.
We're learning.
Yeah.
It's tough in our situation. This is not an excuse. So I struggle with it sometimes because, how our schedules
But this is why we're not perfect. No, you know what I mean?
Yeah, our schedules, like my schedule is different every day. It's not like I work out, running a business and doing all the other stuff that I do. I wish I could work out at 12 o'clock every single day.
Yeah.
Or like at 10 or at 6 or whatever time.
Yeah.
Right? So if I did that, so that's why I think it's important, if you can, to have a specific time that you train pretty much every day of the week. Like however many days you're doing. So whether it's 3 days a week or 4 days a week or 5 or whatever it is. I think it's important because then it's easier to kind of monitor that. Mine, sometimes I look back, and this is terrible too. But sometimes it can be difficult for us because of our schedules. Like you can look back 2 weeks ago and be like, I don't quite remember how many times I trained that week.
Oh, I cannot tell you how many sets or anything I did the previous week.
But you're good about how many days you've done.
I am good with the days. But I couldn't.
So really, so I do try. I do keep track of the last time that I took off.
Oh, why? Yeah.
So like I took off a whole week. So I have another one coming up in a month or so. But I took off a whole week right around Christmas. I didn't do anything.
But also, I feel like it's really beneficial for you because you're not a sleeper.
No, I don't. I don't.
So you have to make.
Sleep.
So.
So I probably like.
So actually, what's different between me and you right now is I'm getting good sleep, but not taking the full deload week. So we kind of need to combine our,
we need to combine our
strategies.
forces. Yeah, for sure.
But when we were talking about earlier with clients, when I look at clients and overtraining, the first thing I kind of see is one. I think that's why the biggest thing you have to have such good rapport with your clients.
Yeah,
you need to really establish that relationship.
So they give you honest.
So they give you honest feedback. So, a lot of my clients, especially my clients that I'm training for a good bit, they'll give me pretty honest feedback. I can always tell because when you see them work out so much, you really can tell when they're off, I feel like.
Yeah,
in the
100%,
gym.
Yeah.
So I can see that. And then also they're pretty good with telling me about their sleep and stuff. And then I'll see, because they'll talk to me about how they just feel super run down and fatigued. And then we just kind of we'll dig in a little bit and try to see if overtraining is a cause of it. And most of my clients are pretty honest because, like I said, I like to build that relationship. And and they realize the more honest they are, the more I can help them.
And they do realize that your nickname is Honest Luke. So
exactly,
they better
so
be honest.
They're only getting the honesty from me. So.
There we go. Keeping in the theme with the week off or bringing yourself to a deload week. And again, I'll explain it. Deloading, you can still work out. You just do much less volume.
Yeah.
Right. And so again, we'll talk about that in a second. But I think that also a lot of overtraining happens because people try to follow different programs, right?
Yeah.
And then these programs don't have something scheduled in, or they have something scheduled in because they're following somebody's program based on their superior genetics.
Yeah.
Or on people that, and we're not going to go into like who does what.
Yeah.
But like if you're following a known bodybuilder that has literally had some help, like some steroid help,
clear steroid help,
you can't follow that volume.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
That's literally geared for them.
Yeah.
Steroids gives you that. It's literally a superpower for them in the sense of recovery.
That's accurate.
You recover really well and you build muscle, burn fat at the same time, and you could literally have 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Is it healthy? No. But if we're talking about
horrible for you.
Yeah, it's horrible for you.
Yeah.
But from that, when you just look at how someone looks or whatever, a lot of these programs are cut from that, and you apply it to someone's everyday life.
Yeah, and you have people that they start getting into lifting when they're young too.
Yeah.
Where they're like 16, 17 years old. They're in the weight room. They're like, I'm going to follow so-and-so famous bodybuilder because I want to look like them.
Yeah.
And then I want to be like, well, so-and-so is a known steroid user. Yeah. And you're not going to be able to follow that. You're going to end up hurting yourself and causing a lot of problems in your own life trying to do that much volume. Right?
Yeah.
So that's a pet peeve of mine. And I see why it happens.
To stay with that, another thing that we had discussed too was the nutrition aspect. How people are undereat. I think people really undereat, at least in the fitness world, more than they believe.
Oh, I mean, right away, because when we do nutrition with our clients, and like we go over their stuff, what'd you eat this day? What'd you eat this day? And do like maybe a 3-day, food, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Man, words difficult today, Luke.
Yeah.
But if you just have them follow like a 3-day food calendar really quickly and take a look at it, you're like, you're not eating nearly enough protein.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you're like, you're not eating nearly enough calories. And like, well, I'm trying to lose weight. And we're like, yes, we get that.
Yeah.
But we want to do it in a safe way and also in a healthy way. And doing it this way is going to work for a short period of time. And then you're going to become overtrained and you're going to hit all of these problems.
Yeah. And so that's why it's important to dig, like I was saying, when you build that rapport with your clients, because, it might not be full just overtraining. It might just be the nutritional aspect. I mean, how many people do you know, they're like, oh, just add this, this, and this in, and they feel like night and day?
Yeah. No,
do you know what I mean? It makes a huge difference.
Yeah. I had somebody was so worried about they just felt like they weren't getting any change in their body and their performance was lacking. And this is not one of my clients.
Yeah.
Actually, this is just somebody that I knew. So they had asked me, they were just talking to me about it. And, naturally, this is our profession. So I started digging in. I started asking questions. And I was like, well, how much protein do you get a day? I get enough. I get enough protein.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. How often are you lifting? 5 days a week. I do some really difficult things. She told me some of the stuff she did. And I was like, yeah, that's that's pretty good. It wasn't perfect programming, but we're all little hard on other programming, just
we all started
for sure. So it was pretty good. It was not bad though. But then I heard her say that, and that just clicked off in my head because that's what a lot of people say, and you have to dig in more. And so I was like, okay, I found out that, and she probably weighed like 115, 120 pounds. She was eating 20 grams of protein a day. 20.
That's how?
I don't know.
Like,
yeah, it was very interesting.
I can accidentally eat 20 grams of protein.
I didn't even have to add anything together. I didn't have to do any calculations. She just wrote it. She told me, I listed it out, and I just looked at it, and I was like, there's no way you're getting enough protein.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm pretty sure I get enough. And I was like, then we actually did do those calculations. Yeah, not even close. 20 grams.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I think that is an important thing as well. You just have to have proper recovery, and that's even without taking days off. Right? You need to eat correctly, and you need to sleep correctly,
and that all is recovery. That word means all those things.
And I think that counts as part. People should factor that into their exercise. If you're gonna be serious about exercise, it's not good enough to go into the gym.
No,
right? You need to eat right, which everybody says they know, but I don't feel like they put that in there. They just work out, and then sometimes they'll do whatever they want.
Well, consistency always beats intensity.
Yeah.
Can you agree with that?
Yeah.
If you have someone who can go balls to the walls, right, working out, not recovering right, but then the guy who, I'd say, moderate intensity, super consistent, recovery is on point, they're going to see more results than that guy.
Absolutely.
And they won't plateau as hard.
Right.
And they won't run into those walls as much as, our balls to the walls guy.
Balls to the walls guy, though, he'll probably talk about it more. He'll probably talk about it.
He's a huge talker.
Huge talker.
Yeah, huge talker. Absolutely.
You'll hear more about it.
Yeah, you'll hear more. You'll know his life story. Trust me.
Probably get a lot of posts.
Yeah.
Too. So nutrition, sleeping, all really important into it. Let's talk about how you deload.
Yeah.
A little bit. So deloading. It's okay. So deloading, what we really want to deload is we really want to take down the volume of work.
Yeah.
Right. So the actual absolute intensity is not going to have you overtrain. Right.
Yeah.
It's like how much weight I lift in a given set, or how difficult it is. It's the amount of sets and the amount of repetitions that are going to matter. So sometimes when I deload, I'll do a straight week where I take our foundational lifts, and I'll just do, instead of doing 4 sets of 8 or something like that, I will do each one of the movements, each one of the main movements, I'll do one set of a intense 12. So or 11, 12, I'm tired, I'm pretty wiped out. But then I won't do another set of that movement.
Yeah.
Right? And so that way I'm still getting those movements, I'm still getting something done, but the volume of work is so low that it's not gonna affect me from an overtraining standpoint.
Yeah, and you're still getting that stimulus to the muscle.
Yeah,
but you're just not killing yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and I think it's also important to add, if you are overtraining, it can take, if you've been overtraining for a long period of time, it can take a long time to recover. You might need a full. If you've got what they call overtraining syndrome, where you're having a lot of these things happen,
your
body's breaking down. Yeah, you have to completely stop.
Yeah,
and you're looking at 4 to 6 weeks of recovery. Sometimes 2-3 months.
Yeah,
that it can be, which is crazy, because then you're thinking, what have I done to my body if it's that bad? That's how bad overtraining can get.
Yeah,
and you won't always be able to tell by, it's not like you could. Tear something before you even realize it, or something could happen. But if it doesn't, you're still completely breaking down your body, and you're having a lot of these symptoms. So it's really hard to figure this out, and it's hard to catch it.
Well, and that term you just put, you're breaking down your body.
Yeah.
When we look at fitness programs and everyone they always talk about breaking down your body.
Yeah, and build it back up.
You need to build it back up.
Yeah.
And no one talks as much about building it back up, and that's where recovery builds it back up.
That is exactly right. And I think, again, the important thing is, it's so hard to catch overtraining, and it's so hard to figure out how long you should rest when you've already been overtrained.
Yeah.
So the best way to do it is to prevent it from happening. Mm-hmm. And that's through solid programming, where you're actually programming in deloading, or you're programming in time off.
Yeah.
Right? And I would err on the side of if somebody's like, all right, well, should I take a week or should I take 2 weeks? I would take a week, see how that feels. And if you're questioning it, I'd take another week.
Yeah.
And just do something light so that way that you don't run into this giant issue.
Absolutely. Strategy-wise, on how to deal with it, we highlighted a lot of good ones. I would say the most important would be sleep, nutrition, and exercise program.
Exactly.
Is probably the 3 things to take away from it. Would you have anything else?
Don't do dumb stuff like we did when we were younger.
No.
It's the main thing.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're covering. Don't be dumb.
I mean, I still do some of this dumb stuff now.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay? So that's what we were admitting. So, and that's the one thing that I think too is there's multiple ways to overtrain. Whether you like it a lot or you just feel like you need. There's a lot of things that can lead to overtraining.
Yeah, because people a lot of times exercise is a stress reliever.
Yeah,
and I think that's a big one. So when it's a stress reliever and they're like addicted to it,
that's me. That's how I am.
Yeah.
I use it. That's how I can get addicted to it, and that's how I usually can fall into those.
Mine, I feel like when I take some time off, I get agitated, and then I also. I feel like my body is like falling apart. Like I feel like that I'll just like start gaining weight and like all this stuff. And like a week off is not going to change.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But in your head, you're just like
you think you're just like putty.
Right. Yeah, you run into it, and you're not going to have that big of a change in just a week, and especially if you're smart with what you eat in that week. And I think that's the big thing. Don't take your recovery seriously. So don't take your week off and be like, all right, since I'm not training at the gym. It's time for me to have a cheat week. No,
you don't need, and plus you're not working out, so you don't need all those calories.
And you're eating like Nutella and cheese popcorn.
That's
made that up.
Yeah, exactly.
Mine is, what's my cheat meal, Luke?
Chicken tenders?
I do love chicken tenders, but I have a specific combination.
Yeah.
Mike, do you know it?
Because I thought it was chicken tenders.
No, I love me some chicken tenders.
Yeah.
So I'm a big chicken tender guy. There's no questioning that. And I'm very picky about my chicken tenders. So if I go to a restaurant, I judge it based on their chicken tenders. And no surprise, Jack does. So Jack's my 8-year-old. No, mine is a box of fish sticks and a bag of Doritos. Nobody follow that protocol at all. So when I'm feeling really, really crazy, I probably do that once every 3 months or something like that.
Crazy or heartbroken?
Who knows what that is? But that's for a whole different podcast.
I think you're screaming something else there. I think might be having some of these signs here of overtraining.
Could be. Well, ladies and gentlemen, don't judge me too much for that. But once again, thank you all for another version of The Lab.